Hey guys, welcome to Pat's Weekend Box Office Report. Well, that's not the official name, but welcome to my Weekend Box Office Report. My name's Pat. I've been doing this for the last few Sundays, and if you don't know what we do here, we basically look at the top 5 to 10 films of the weekend, and we look at the budgets, and we figure out what the marketing costs are, and we try to break down the success or failure of films and studios. Like I always say, it's important to follow the money and follow the patterns. You can see the kinds of movies that Hollywood is going to make because you'll see what's making money. And it gives you a good understanding of how studio budgeting works, how budgeting on films work in general, and how films make money. And we have a great conversation together about it, and I hope if you catch this stream after I've done it live, that we can have a conversation in the comment section about some of the movies featured here. So let's just jump right in, shall we? I don't know if anyone's watching yet, so... Hey, man, how you doing? Welcome to the show. Okay, so this is a very interesting weekend. This is actually probably my favorite weekend that we've covered so far. Because there's a lot of films out. There was some new releases. Some films performed very well. Other films aren't doing as well. And there's a lot of context to give to... what some of these films are right now, specifically how well they're doing for the studio. Like Sony in particular, we're going to talk about how even though they have Baby Driver and Spider-Man both making quite a bit of money right now, that's still not going to be enough to save the studio from a lot of its other big failures. They didn't have, these films aren't enough of a success to save Sony Pictures this year, unless they have some big blockbuster coming out that I don't know about or something. Maybe it'll come out. Okay. So why don't we start with Baby Driver just to get that one out of the way, and we'll work our way up. With Baby Driver, it's number 15 this week, and it brought in $1,475,000. It crossed $100 million at the box office this weekend. So on a $34 million budget, I don't know what the marketing was. Let's just guess $30 million. That seems about right, probably from my estimates of what the averages would be on a movie of this scale. But let's say $30 million. $100 million is huge for this. As I've said, this is Edgar Wright's first film to make $100 million domestic. It's his first film to even make $100 million worldwide. It's at $166 million worldwide, 66 mil foreign. I don't know if it's been in all of its international markets yet, but it's I guess it is possible to say this film could end up making $200 million worldwide. So it's a pretty big success for Sony. This is like their Get Out or Split, because this isn't a big budget film. 34 million's nothing, and it's, you know, it's 100 million. You can't knock it. Those are good numbers. It's going to help get Edgar Wright's name out there, because the next film they could be like, from the director of Baby Driver, and people will be like, oh, I saw that movie. This is definitely great for Ansel Elgort's career, John Hamm's career, Kevin Spacey's career. Pretty much everyone in this only benefits from this movie making money. It's one of the best reviewed films of the year, and it's, you know, it's more so than Spider-Man, because Spider-Man was Marvel and the MCU and them setting that up in Civil War and bringing in Tony Stark. This is really the film that Sony made this year that they deserve the most credit for getting off the ground and marketing so well and getting out and making this kind of money. They did this was a great film to release during the summer, and the counter programming with it really worked with some of these big blockbuster franchise films that people, I think, got a little burnout on. It seems like this summer people got a little tired of the franchise. I could be wrong. Maybe it was just too crowded of a summer. Always a factor. All right, let's get to the two indie darlings, The Big Sick and Detroit. Now, The Big Sick, I've said before, this is a film they have a lot of money in. You can go read about this on Deadline or on Hollywood Reporter. I'm so glad for Edgar Wright that Baby Driver did so well. Me too. No, you haven't missed anything yet, David. We just started this just legitimately a few minutes ago. So thank you for joining us. We're not at the big movies yet. But I've said this before, and I'm not going to keep harping on this point, so this might be the last weekend I go into this. They overthought the success of this film, or the hope for the success of it, at least. This film it was very low budget. This wasn't a big budget film, but it was acquired for like $20 million, and then they put another $20 million or so into marketing, I think. I read they put a lot of money behind it, because this film had a lot of advertisements. So I think they have over 40 million plus in this movie, maybe more. And they went wide with it really early. It was doing well in limited release, then they decided to go in 2,600 theaters, and it opened to 7 million. And it's just scraping by to maybe make 40 mil domestic. And who knows, maybe at the foreign box office it'll be a surprise hit. So that's still open to see. But as of right now, for a big Oscar hopeful, and one of the best reviewed films of the year, this film was raved on and had the Judd Apatow push. I really think they thought this was going to break out and be a film that maybe even made 100 million. I really think they thought this was going to be like a Silver Linings Playbook moment. Because they put too much support behind this. I mean, they went wide. They marketed the shit out of it. They paid a lot for it. They thought this was going to be a big success for them. And it might end up getting Oscar nominations and being considered one of the best films of the year. But financially, I can't remember what studio released this, but they definitely overthought the reach of this movie. It's not even that I think this movie couldn't have done well in a different environment and market, but I think they thought it was going to be like this counter-programming, like romantic comedy during the summer, and it was going to hit with like females and stuff like that, and it just didn't. I mean, Girls Trip is doing a lot better, and I would say that, you know, despite it being more catered to black audiences, I do think The Big Sick could have made that kind of money. Maybe it's the marketing. Maybe people didn't really get a concept of what the movie was. And that's a fair point. I'm not really sure. I still need to see that movie and do a review of it. Kumail's not big enough to be listed as a star by the Box Office Mojo website. I didn't know that. Yeah, it is Amazon. That's right. Thanks for reminding me of that. Yeah. Yeah, no, they spent a lot of money advertising The Big Sick, and they're not getting that money back. I mean, it's in 700 theaters right now and made $1 million. So, to bring it up again, I said this last weekend, Detroit. They way overshot on this one. This film dropped hard. Its opening weekend was, what was it? It wasn't that great. 7 million in 3,000 theaters. This is a $34 million film. Same budget as Baby Driver. They went from a 350,000 opening in 20 theaters, and then they said, fuck it, 3,000 wide. Because the film was getting really good reviews. It's Catherine Bigelow. I think they were trying to tap into the zeitgeist of the time with Black Lives Matter and police brutality and all that bullshit. And it didn't work. Or people just aren't enjoying this movie. I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard a lot of people say it does come off like, I don't want to use the term torture porn or anything like that, but I hear it comes off a little graphic and gratuitous and even exploitive, so maybe people aren't responding to it. I'm shocked this isn't doing better, just because Zero Dark 30 did really well, and I figured this would hit with the left audience, and it would get big reception, but 7 million opening weekend was not good for a 3,000 wide release and a film that's got such a big pedigree behind it when it comes to the director. And you know, they put a lot in the marketing on this film too. I saw advertisements for this film like crazy, and then in its second weekend and wide release it drops 57% to 3 million. That ain't good. That shows some shitty word of mouth. This film is not going to make its budget back domestically. So I'm not ready to proclaim this a bomb, but as of right now, it's looking like it's going that way. Unless the foreign box office on Detroit is huge, this is kind of looking like a bomb, and it's definitely not connecting. It's kind of like the 12 Years... Not 12 Years a Slave, that did well. It's kind of like, what's that movie? Damn it, Birth of the Nation, the Nate Parker film. When he made that film, I think they thought that film was going to open at 20 million and be this huge film and break out, and it got bought at Sundance for like 20 million, and it was supposed to be a Best Picture frontrunner. Then the film didn't even get nominated for any Oscars, and yeah, it had a 7 million opening weekend and 15 million gross. The budget was low, but they paid 20 mil for the movie and then marketed it. So this was a bomb. So that's the parallel I'm seeing with Detroit. The only analogous I can make with it is that film. It seems like when you make a really violent, hardcore film about race, people do not want to go see it, even if they're good or bad. The guys over at ETC really like Detroit. Doesn't look like it helped much. Yeah, well, of course it didn't help much. I hope they don't blame Detroit's problems on racism. Hopefully they don't know. I mean, I don't think Amazon's going to make money off video sales. I doubt The Big Sick will make enough money on video. I mean, they might make a little bit of profit, but Amazon, they don't need The Big Sick to make money to make profit. But I mean, they spent too much money on it, man. They paid like 20 mil for it, and they spent even more on the marketing. The movie's going to have to make some serious home video sales. And do you see that movie making 30, 40 mil on home video? And people are going to watch it on Amazon Prime, probably, so they're paying for their Amazon subscription, which is cool, but that still doesn't make the movie a big hit. It's not like it's a big success story for Amazon. Like, at best, they'll make a little bit of profit off the movie. And that's not what they want. They want to make a lot of profit off the movie. Like, Manchester by the Sea made a lot of money, and it didn't cost as much, and they didn't put as much money into the marketing and all that. And yeah, they wanted this film to make $100 million. It's clear they wouldn't release this film in 2,600 theaters if they didn't think it had a chance to be a hit. So, don't think Amazon isn't disappointed with this. They're not happy. They put a lot on The Big Sick. They thought this film was going to be huge. You don't put a big marketing campaign behind a film unless you expect it to have a return. They didn't get the return on their marketing campaign. So just from a business standpoint, it's not a bomb, but it's certainly a failure from what their goal was, and a disappointment if Amazon and the studios behind it. Because, I mean, come on, we knew they were thinking this film was going to make $100 million. Detroit, I don't know if they ever thought Detroit was going to be a hit. That's a little odd. I don't even know why they released Detroit during summer. I think it just, everything they did with this movie was a bad idea. Like, bad release date. I mean, every single element about it just didn't seem like a right choice to release it right now. I don't know. It just, obviously it's showing. It's not holding well. Despicable Me 3. This film's made 920. Shit, this might make $1 million. Crap. I didn't see this coming. Well, here we go, guys. You got Illumination here again. Despicable Me 2 made $970 million. And Minions made $1.1 billion, and Despicable Me 1 made $543 million. So far, this has the biggest foreign box office out of the trilogy, and if it gets to that, $750 million mark more, I mean, this, wow, for an $80 million budget film, this has to be the most profitable film right now. Even Get Out can make profit like this. Like, Get Out probably made the studio, I mean, it probably could have even made them $150 more, $150 million, and same with Split. But still, you can't, these are the kind of numbers where you make like 300, 400 million profit. Like, because Illumination has no fucking money in this film. Because they send their animation to get done off in Korea for cheap. But for 80 mil, Jesus Christ. Even if the domestic total is lower than the previous two, the foreign box office is so huge. People love these fucking Illumination films and Minions. God, if this makes $1 billion, this would have to be looked at as the most successful film of the year so far. Just because of the budget. Every other film that's made over $1 billion this year cost way more than this. This is low budget shit. And this is a third in a trilogy. Shit. Yeah, not much to say here. Once again, Illumination Studios has a mega profitable film that's going to be one of the most profitable films at the end of the year. I don't see how this doesn't make them a shitload of money. I even thought they were going to spend more on this one. I would have guessed the budget was going to be over $100 million. I would have never thought. The only reason I'd watch it is because I'm a Ray Romano fan. I'm a big fan of Ray Romano too. 80 is high for Illumination. That's a fair point. They don't usually spend 80. That is true. I just thought that they would have paid the actors more on this one. Like, I thought Steve Carell would have got a huge paycheck on this, but he might be getting back-end pay. He might be getting the back-end, because I thought for sure that he would be getting like a huge payday for this, and whoever works on these films. But even on Secret Life of Pets, they only spent $75 million, and that had a pretty big voice cast. I just thought Carell would have it in his contract, but I'm assuming he gets back end on that movie. He's probably getting a cut of the profits. So I'm thinking Steve Carell is going to have a big payday coming on, in the same way that Mike Myers and Eddie Murphy had with Shrek. I'm thinking Steve Carell is going to make a shitload of money off this, Despicable Me 3. Yeah, kids do love those Minions. I don't get it. They're okay. I just don't know why they're that popular. It's a little baffling. Alright, let's get to War for the Planet of the Apes. I said this film's been a massive disappointment, and it still remains to be so. It, $150 million budget. I'll go through this again. The last film made $700 million worldwide. It made $710 on a $170 million budget. So it was more expensive, but it made a lot more money. I mean, it made $400 million more than this current film. And this current film's wrapping up domestically. It looks like it's going to end somewhere in the 140s range. Let's see what it did. Yeah, $3 million. So I don't think it'll reach 150 million. So they definitely didn't make their money back domestically. So their hope has to be the foreign box office, because they're not going to pass their budget here, and we know they need to at least double it. They need to do not even total, but 200 million domestic or 190 would have been a lot nicer than this. They don't want a film to perform under its budget domestically, especially. So it's made 314 million worldwide, which is good. I mean, like, you can't say those are bad numbers, but they have a lot of money in this movie. They spent a lot of money on marketing. They do have back-end deals, I think, with Andy Serkis. I think Matt Reeves had some deals. I just don't see them making a fourth film now, and I don't know if the foreign box office is done yet. I mean, this film could still make 400 million worldwide or more, and I think they'll be okay then. I think the break-even point on this is somewhere from 350 to 400 million. Wouldn't surprise me. Or even where they start making a decent profit is around there. So, maybe if they make a 400 million, right now, 314 million for a $150 million film, and the third film in a critically acclaimed trilogy that's considered the best trilogy of the modern era, and a film that's hype. This is not good. This isn't performing as well as the first film, which made 481 million worldwide, and about 200 mil domestic with inflation. So you really got to look at this. This is just an underperformer. This is performing worse than the first film and the second film, and it just did not catch on with audiences. I've often said the marketing to this film wasn't very good. They weren't able to make it distinct enough from the second film, and I think it just didn't get enough people out. I'm not really sure. I don't know if they'll make a sequel, because you have to think, dude, if they make 400 mil worldwide on this movie, you have to argue that the next film might not even make that. You just have to assume the next film's going to make less money and make 300 to 350 million. And at that point, if they're going to make it for 130 mil, they're not going to make that much profit. It's kind of pointless. Like, they made $180 million off that last movie. They're going to want to make $100 million off the Ape franchise. They don't want to be making, like, 20 million profit returns. And I just don't see it, especially since Matt Reeves is on to Batman now. I mean, do you really see them getting him back? And I don't know. I don't see. Maybe if they make it for 100 million, it might happen. But I think this series is at least done in this form with Caesar in the storyline. If they do make a sequel, I would say wait a few years. I'd say if you actually want to do a sequel, I'd say wait a long time and then come back with a totally fresh approach to it with Caesar even. And you could have a film that maybe brings back an audience that had left for a while, because it just seems like people are burnt out on this depressing tone of the series. I don't think people seem to want escapism right now, or something they haven't really seen before. I don't think this grew the audience much from the previous film. It doesn't seem like it brought in a lot of the audience. Yeah, they'd have to lower the budget considerably, and they'd have to not put much into the marketing. I just don't see it. I don't see a studio putting the money into it. I don't see why it would be financially pragmatic, because they could just make money doing something else. They could make a lower budget horror film and probably make more profit than they're going to make off a fourth Apes film. It's just, this is how series go. If your third film's performing worse than your previous two, it's kind of a sign that you need to rethink something with your franchise. And this film was acclaimed and loved, and everyone said the movie was amazing, so it's not like it's a bad movie. But that's the thing. This isn't a bad film. I'm sure people even like the movie. It just isn't hitting with the market right now. Atomic Blonde, 42 million on a 30 million budget. Not great so far domestically, but that's 61 million. If this can make 100 million worldwide, then I think they'll make a sequel like John Wick. Because the first John Wick, it only made like 43 million domestic and 88 mil worldwide. And then they made a sequel that was a huge hit. So they'll probably make a sequel to this if it makes. But I think they want it to make 100 million. I don't think they're going to rely just on the 45 million domestic total, or around 50. I think they want it to, if this can make 100 million worldwide, then you have a better argument to make a sequel. Because you can't just greenlight a sequel off a decent domestic total that's okay and a little bit above the budget. But they can go, hey, this film made 100 million worldwide, so maybe we can make a sequel, and we can make it for 35 million. But I don't know. They said they want to do more Atomic Blondes, but man, they did release this wide. They released this in 3,300 theaters, so I don't know. It didn't do as well as I thought it was going to do. I'll say that. I thought the film was going to do a lot better. It certainly isn't the breakout hit I thought it was going to be. It's not doing bad. I just thought Atomic Blonde was going to be a movie that, I don't know, caught on and was going to maybe make like 70, 80 million here, but people don't seem to be really digging it that much. The audience reception seems to be mixed from what I can tell. Okay, let's look at Wonder Woman real quick, because Wonder Woman is past 400 mil domestic. Wonder Woman is the highest grossing film of the summer so far. 402 million. It's not the highest grossing film of the year. That's Beauty and the Beast. But $149 million budget. Let's look at that sweet budget. That is beautiful. That is an amazing budget. I mean, goddamn. You got to give DC that. They know how to budget their films sometimes. I mean, even Batman v Superman, $250 million, that made sense. Like, I mean, I get why they spent that much on the movie. That movie sucked, but I get why you'd spend that much money on a Batman Superman movie. However, you got to say, this is going to pass 800 million worldwide. It's on the cusp. It's past 400. I mean, did anyone see this coming? This has to be the total hit of the year, no matter what makes money, even Star Wars. Because you have to say here, no DC film has made this kind of money since Nolan's Batman trilogy. No DC film has even come close to this. Batman v Superman and Man of Steel didn't even make this much money. Like, I mean, especially profit. Like, you had to think, Batman v Superman made like $870 million worldwide on a $250 million budget. This film's making $800 million worldwide on $100 million less, and its domestic total's higher, which is the bigger profits for the studios. Now, they do get a less profit as time goes on, I think, so they might not be making some of this money, but still, these first few weekends, the studio made a shitload of money. They got a great return on this. For $103 million opening weekend, which is not as high as Spider-Man or some other films from this summer, the fact that it held from word of mouth and didn't have a big drop, and still hasn't had a big drop, all been in the 30s or the 20s, and it's holding on to make over 400 mil domestic. I mean, this is a moneymaker. This kicks off a franchise. This almost guarantees a $1 billion sequel, I think, because this is outperforming even like stuff like Guardians of the Galaxy or the first Iron Man, something that really broke out. I mean, I think this is the highest grossing single superhero film with first movie. Like, this is her first solo flick. I think this is the first one. Oh, I guess Spider-Man would actually be with Tobey Maguire. And Tim Burton's Batman probably made. But for modern times, this is huge. I mean, this is more than Iron Man and Deadpool. You have to think about that. This is making more money domestically than Iron Man and Deadpool. That's huge. This is huge for Justice League. This gives her the Avengers factor, like Robert Downey Jr. That's going to help the box office here. This greenlights a huge hit sequel that they could make for, $200 million, and they're guaranteed that it's going to be a profitable film. Even if it just performs at this level, it's going to be a profitable film. So they killed it. They got Gal Gadot. They don't have to pay a huge paycheck. She wasn't a big star. Chris Pine probably got paid more, to be honest. I mean, this is just good for everyone. Chris Pine's career is going to benefit from this. The studio benefits from this. It shows that DC can make Marvel profits and actually make more profit than Marvel, because this is impressive. I mean, this is more impressive than the box office for Captain America, Thor, the first Iron Man, the first movies, the ones that kicked him off. I mean, this is, it's Wonder Woman, but still, you have to celebrate this. Even if you don't like this film, I'm pretty mixed on it myself. You have to mention the box office. This was the hit of the year. This is the one that really caught on this summer, and it threw the gauntlet down. It threw the gauntlet down for every superhero film to come out. I don't mean in quality. I think Logan was a better movie, but it ain't making that kind of money. That's fuck you money. Yeah, I know, female. Yeah, no, that's fuck you money. That's all that is. I mean, that's what they call it. That's when you have so much money. Wonder Woman has enough money where anyone who worked on that film could just say fuck you, and you have nothing you can respond with, because they're right. Okay, let's move up a little bit here. We got The Glass Castle, which opened and just bombed at $4 million. I don't know what they were thinking with this film, so we'll just skip over that because there's nothing to talk about. Kidnap with Halle Berry. About 20 million total, not great. Weird film to release. I don't really know what they were thinking with that one. Okay, now we're at Spider-Man. So Spider-Man's actually had a huge boost later here in late July, August, and and somewhat now, yeah, it's just been that it's been holding better than it did in its early weekends. Like its first weekend, it had a good opening weekend. Then that second week drop was steep, man. 62%. Then its third weekend drop of 49% was pretty steep. And then 40% was pretty steep even. But then the last 2 weekends, 33% drop, 31% drop. This has really put Spider-Man Homecoming over the edge domestically, because it was just scraping to get to 300 million. It was performing about at the same level of Amazing Spider-Man. But now it's past that movie, and it's got over 300 million, and it's probably going to hold pretty well the rest of this month. So I could see it maybe reaching 320 million. It probably won't quite get there, but still 315 million plus. That officially makes this like a total, like, okay, that's really good. You know, because if this hadn't made 300 million domestic, having Iron Man in it and being a Spider-Man film and this big return for the franchise, that would have been disappointing. It didn't have to make that kind of money because, like I said, Marvel budgeted this film so well. They handled the budget on this so well. They handled the marketing so well. They you know, setting this up in Civil War, getting Tony Stark in it. But now I have to say again, though, so far this film's worldwide box office, this is at the total of Amazing Spider-Man 2. That film made 700 million worldwide on a $255 million budget. So that was crazy. And so this is currently at the numbers of that film. So that's all I ever say contextually, is that, you know, until this film passes those films, you know, all I can say is that it's a big hit. It's a big hit, but it's a big hit for Marvel, worked on it. It's making the money you expect it to make, 700 million. That's what Amazing Spider-Man 2 made worldwide. And, you know, this film, until the China-Japan release happens, and it possibly makes 850 million to 900 million, so far it's doing what you would expect from a Spider-Man movie. Even the Andrew Garfield Amazing Spider-Man film, that film made 758 million, and that was in 2012. It would be over 800 million today. So, you know, until this film does even that numbers, it's still only doing about ticket sales worldwide on average about the same as Amazing Spider-Man. Now, that's not me saying this is a bomb or taking anything away. I'm just saying that this isn't overperforming. People seem to be talking about this film like it's overperforming, and it confuses me. They go, man, this is just overwhelming expectations and blowing away Sony's mind and a huge profit, and it's going to save the studio, and it shows Marvel's success. It's like, well, dude, it's a fucking Spider-Man movie with Iron Man in it. Am I supposed to be surprised that it made 100 million opening weekend and 700 million worldwide? I mean, are you kidding me? Robert Downey Jr., man. 400 million on Captain America Civil War, 460 million on Avengers 2, Avengers 600 million, Iron Man 3, 400 million. The guy's kind of box office gold. So when it comes to being Tony Stark. So of course this made this money. So anyone that acts like this film's overperforming or that it's some surprise hit just confuses me. It's doing Spider-Man numbers. Not Raimi Spider-Man numbers, but it's doing what you would expect. And even if it makes 800 million more, or 800 million worldwide, that's still what I expect from a Spider-Man movie. It's just what I expect. I think if Marvel, that's what I'm trying to explain here. See, Sony, the last 2 Spider-Man films they made, they spent 230, then 250 mil just on the budgets, and then a shitload on marketing, and they don't get a profit in the merchandising. So now they have this film where they get to keep the film profits, and because Kevin Feige came in here and produced it so well and kept the budget low, they're going to make an actual profit off this film over 100 million. But if Marvel hadn't been involved in this and given them Iron Man, I'm thinking we would have had a reboot that would have done much less than this, or we would have had a third Amazing Spider-Man film that wouldn't have performed well. I mean, I don't really see any version of this where Marvel didn't save Sony's ass completely. And even with Marvel, this is doing the box office you expect from a Spider-Man movie with the name recognition. I mean, people seem to forget how popular Spider-Man is. And I know they make more superhero films now than they used to, but, like, just to show you, if we go back here, real quick, with inflation, Spider-Man 1, the Raimi one, made 617 million domestic. Spider-Man 2 made 534 million domestic. Spider-Man 3 made $434 million domestically with inflation. The Amazing Spider-Man's at right around 300, and then Amazing Spider-Man 2's at 216. So let's just not include the Raimi ones, right? Because that was in a different era. But still, that just shows you the fucking popularity of Spider-Man. He's not some small-time character. His brand is huge. He still sells merchandise. His comics still sell. This film opened to 114 million in 2002. Okay, and that budget was huge at the time. And then this film opened to 117 million today. That's all I've ever tried to say, is that this film is what you expect from Spider-Man, and unless it made $1 billion worldwide, it's doing what I expected it to do. It's not surprising me. Wonder Woman's the movie that surprises me. That's the film I didn't expect to make that kind of money. Spider-Man, of course it made 300 mil. I thought it was going to make 350 mil or more. I thought it was going to make $1 billion, and people was saying I was crazy, and I'm like, what are you talking about? This film's gonna make 800 million worldwide, if not more, and it's had pretty bad drops in its first weekends, and it's not like it hasn't been a crowded summer. So I don't know why people thought it was crazy for me to assume this could have made 350 million. I totally think this film could have done Guardians 2 money. I honestly think it came out in a crowded weekend, and that kind of like shoved it down after it came out right before these other movies were coming out. Like War for the Planet of the Apes came out right after it, and then Dark Tower. So of course it got held back. 100 more domestically than The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Yeah, that's okay, but that's really not that great. Like the 100 mil more than the film that got shit reviews and was hated after a so-so reboot, and then a film with Iron Man in it, which people ignore when I bring... Tony Stark's in this movie, okay? He brings in $100 million guaranteed of that domestic... you have to include Robert Downey Jr. and Tony Stark in this movie's box office total. Amazing Spider-Man 2 didn't have that. It didn't have that, neither did the first film. I mean, if we're going to ignore the biggest movie star in the world being in this film, then I think people are being intellectually dishonest. He was in all of the marketing. He was in the first frickin' trailer. I mean, the whole movie's about his relationship with Peter and like this audition for the event. I mean, there's a lot to it. So I don't get why people want to ignore that factor. I'm like, take him out of it. Would it have made $100 million more than Amazing Spider-Man 2? I'd argue not. I think it would have made like 250 mil domestic, which would have been successful because of the budget. But for Sony, this doesn't save the studio. This isn't going to make enough profit for them to overcome the bombs they had. And they're still losing in their market shares. They're still going down. The studio's still hurting right now. And Baby Driver and Spider-Man can't save it. I mean, you know, if the next film, you know, you could make the argument, oh, the next film will open to 150 million and make 400 mil domestic. I don't even know if that's true. That's not really a fair point. You don't know how the next film's going to perform. It's up in the air. We can only guess as of right now how the sequel to this film's going to do. We have no idea how the sequel's going to perform. It depends on how good the movie is, who's in it, the marketing, how they handle it. Just from the goodwill of this movie doesn't guarantee the sequel is going to make $1 billion right off the bat. It should, on paper, but you know, it's happened before. You know, people don't realize Marvel's genius with this film was putting Robert Downey Jr. in it. People keep saying, like, why is Iron Man in this? Why do they shove him? Because the movie could make money and get people to go see Spider-Man again. Sony fucked this franchise up to where people lost all the goodwill and brand recognition for this character. So Marvel and Kevin Feige brilliantly put him in Civil War, where he got introduced to Iron Man. That way, people who all saw that movie were like, oh, hey, there's a new Spider-Man. And then they were able to bring Iron Man over to this movie, and people who like Marvel and Iron Man and the MCU were like, oh, I'm going to go see the new Spider-Man movie. If they just had to rely on the Spider-Man name as it existed after Amazing Spider-Man 2, there's no way it would have made this money. There's no fucking way. It's just, I mean, if it brought in 117 million opening weekend with Robert Downey Jr. and the Marvel tie-in, then just imagine what, you know, I mean, that's crazy. You know, it wouldn't have even made 100 million opening weekend without Marvel. I mean, Amazing Spider-Man 2 made 91 million opening weekend. They went from a franchise that was consistently doing 100 million over like the 3-day weekends. Even the Amazing Spider-Man, the first film, had a great first 5 days. It made like 150 million. They killed the brand name so bad. So, you know, what Marvel was so genius is they had to put Iron Man in this movie. It gave all the goodwill towards this film and let people get the connection to MCU so they would go see it. They knew it had the Marvel brand name. if people just went to go see this thinking it was a Sony Spider-Man film, I don't think it would have done well. I mean, it would have made money, but it wouldn't have made this kind of money. This is all Marvel. And Sony didn't know how to budget these films right. The last 3 Spider-Man films cost like $250 million. They spent like, I mean, this is almost $100 million less. Because finally somebody came and told Sony, you can make a Spider-Man film without spending over $200 million. Why the fuck did The Amazing Spider-Man cost $230 million? Why did the second one cost $250 million? It's insane. Like, I mean, why would you spend that much money on a Spider-Man movie, you know? That budget's too huge. But like I said, Spider-Man Homecoming is a hit. I've never said it was a bomb. I don't think it's a bomb. It's definitely going to make Sony over $100 million in profit. Probably even way more than that. They're going to make money. But you have to remember, they don't get the merchandising money off this. They might get a little bit. But Marvel still gets that. So all the t-shirts and toys and shit that's selling from this movie, that goes to Marvel. Then they get Tom Holland in the Avengers flicks. You know who wins in this deal? Marvel. Sony makes like... Let's say they make $150 million off the movie, even more than that. Let's say they make $180 million off the movie. Marvel's still going to make more money off the movie with merchandising. They're going to make way more, and then they're going to make more money off the Avengers films that have Spider-Man in them. So I don't see how this really wasn't just a great deal for Marvel. For Sony, this is just a good deal. It helps keep their studio alive somewhat, but as for Marvel, this was basically like... I mean, I don't even know how they got a deal this good. They basically get all the benefits, and they don't have to take much risk. All they have to do is help produce this film. Kevin Feige helps with the money. They help with the actors and getting the script and director together. And that just benefits the Marvel brand. So this, if anything, is just a success for the MCU more than it is Sony. All you have to go is like, well, Marvel did it again. I mean, you know, it's just Marvel having another hit flick. That's what they always do. They did it with Ant-Man. They did it with Doctor Strange. They did it with Guardians of the Galaxy. They did it with every movie they've made, except for, like, Incredible Hulk. Every film they've made has been a hit. I mean, they took Captain America from a franchise that made, like, $300 million to $1 billion. You can't make that shit up, man. So, you know, for Spider-Man, you know, these aren't the numbers I would have thought it was going to make. I thought it was going to do better than this, personally. I would have put my money down that this film would make more money than Wonder Woman. I mean, it definitely shocks me this Wonder Woman outperforms Spider-Man so much domestically. That is weird. But, you know, people are probably just fatigued. I also have to be fair that they, you know, the brand is hurt a little bit, so people aren't as excited about a new Spider-Man like they would have been had we not had the Amazing Spider-Man film. So that's a fair point, too. It's the Batman Begins factor. It's really the sequel that we're going to have to see how Sony and Marvel handles this. The sequel now, if that can really break out and make $1 billion, then they have something on their hands that's special. We're going to have to wait and see, though. I don't know. I think it's up in the air. The Marvel sequels don't always come out and overperform. You know, Thor 2 didn't do that much better than Thor 1. It always depends on the quality and how it taps in with audiences. But Spider-Man Homecoming is definitively a hit movie that is a success. So let me get that out of the way. I think the film is a hit and a success. Girls Trip. Got to go without saying, I've already brought this film up a lot. $19 million budget, $97 million domestic, $105 million worldwide. It's going to make $100 million domestic. I don't know what the final foreign total is going to be, but film's a hit. Going to have a huge profit. It's the highest grossing film for the director, who's made very black-centered films. And, yeah, it's just a big success for everyone involved. Queen Latifah, Jada Pinkett. I expect... I wouldn't be surprised if a sequel comes out, to be honest with you. I would almost put money down that we're going to get a Girls Trip 2. There is Spider-Man burnout. Yeah, that is true. I agree. I do think people are getting a little sick of the property. And you got to blame Sony for that. Sony killed the brand recognition. They made those cash-in crappy reboot films, and people got so sick of it that they didn't even want to see Spider-Man. I mean, when I came out of Amazing Spider-Man 2, I was so pissed off. I felt like I just got out of Batman and Robin, like how people felt with that movie. Because the first 10 minutes is pretty good, but then you come out and you're like, man, what the fuck was that? Like, how did that movie even get made? How did this pass anyone's... Like, how did anyone approve any single decision in this movie? It's crazy. I mean, yeah, I don't want to see Girls Trip. I'm just saying it is a hit. It cannot be denied. This is a big, big success. And who is that? Is that Universal? Whoops. Need to go back and check. Sorry, looking at Spider-Man. It is. Wow, that's a big success for Universal. It's funny we have these Sony films here. Okay, so we got the Emoji Movie, which is at 63 million domestic. Not bad. Not great for an animated film, though. I mean, for an animated film, that's just, you know, that's okay. Because animated films usually make a lot of money. Plus, the drops have been pretty steep. 51% and then 45%. That's a pretty... Usually, animated films stay in the 30% range. And it had a wide release in 4,000 theaters, so... I don't see this making 100 million domestic. I mean, it might make over 80 million, and the budget's only 50, but, you know, they had to have spent some money on marketing. So they're going to have to rely on the foreign box office with this one. I don't know how much it'll end up making. We're just going to have to wait on this until the foreign box office all comes in. As of right now, domestically, this isn't that impressive. It's pretty mediocre box office for you know, an animated film. They did really good with the budget. But compare that to Illumination, where their films make $900 million on the same kind of budgets. I'd say this film's going to make a profit, but... You know, I don't know. I assume it's going to have to make, you know, 120, 130 mil worldwide to really make them some money, and then... I mean, it could make 200 million worldwide. I just don't know. It's kind of tough to talk about this movie. I have a review of it up on the channel, which is demonetized. Thank you, YouTube. It's inappropriate for advertisers. But if you guys can go watch that review, that would be great. Also, if you guys ever want to give any money in the super chat, that can help out, or, you know, just turn your ad block off when you watch a video. Even though there aren't many ads, it still helps. Like I said, I don't make a living at this, but the extra money helps me put more time on the videos, that I can put more time into them. And it helps me keep buying better video cards and external hard drives, and I can buy new microphones and stuff like that. It's just, I don't ever use the money for anything but to put it back into the channel. And I'd like to pay some people for some new artwork and some stuff like that. So, you know, I'm thinking about getting some new artwork here soon. So look out for that. If anyone knows any... yeah, I think 150 mil worldwide is probably what they want. But yeah, if any of you guys know any artists out there that want to do some artwork for me, or if any of you are interested, get a hold of me on Twitter. And we can talk about that. Okay, so the Emoji Movie, it's doing okay. You know, I think they thought it was going to do better domestically. I'm pretty sure they thought that film was going to make 100 million, because why else would they make it? They didn't make that film to make 80 mil domestic. Let's get to The Dark Tower now. Number 1 last weekend, number 4 this weekend. That's a pretty bad drop. It's not as bad of a drop as I thought it was going to be. I will be fair. I thought this film was going to drop over 60%. I'm generally stunned it only dropped to 58%. I mean, that's still a big drop. You don't want to drop like 60%. It might even be steeper when the actuals come in. But I thought it was going to drop 65% or even more. It fell off during the week. You got to look how pathetic this was during the weekdays. Hold on here if we can... We need... Damn it, come on, let's get to the weekdays real quick. Ugh. I don't know why it won't show me the fucking weekday box office. Well, if you check the weekday on Dark Tower, basically every day it went down lower and lower. It was like the second film on Tuesday and then the third film on Wednesday. So it didn't end up holding very well. It's definitely not going to make that budget back domestically, 60 million. Now, I don't think they have much money tied up in this, though, even from a marketing standpoint. So they might end up making their money back on this film. However, there's no way they're making a sequel to this. I mean, a film that's not even going to make 50 mil domestic or about that and maybe 100 million worldwide, there's no way they're making a sequel to that. Because, I mean, it's going to bomb. They might do the TV show, but are they going to get Matthew McConaughey and Idris Elba to sign up for a TV show? I don't think at all. I don't know why anyone believes that Idris Elba, who's actually, you know, getting a big movie career now, is going to do that, and why Matthew McConaughey, who was on True Detective and stuff, I don't know why anyone thinks they would sign up to a TV series that follows a film that came out that got bad reviews and did mediocre at the box office. Why would they stick with this franchise? This doesn't benefit Idris Elba or Matthew. Matthew McConaughey's probably going to get a Razzie nomination for this movie. So I just don't know. I think people are being hopeful for a sequel or a TV series, but you gotta be in denial, man. Why would they make a sequel to this, and why would they do that? If they do the TV series, it's gonna have different actors playing Roland and Randall Flagg, which I'm fine with, but if you think Idris Elba and Matthew McConaughey, who are guys who get more than TV money, are going to sign up for some TV show unless they're getting paid a shitload of money, especially after how this film's doing and got received, I just don't see it. Why the hell would either one of them? That their agents would tell them, nope, drop this. And it's dropping at the box office. I mean, but like I said, I'm actually surprised. How is the Emoji Movie review bad for advertisers? I don't know. Apparently all my videos are bad for advertisers. Razorfist did a test on this today, and his theory is that there's a blacklist, and it doesn't even matter. There's not even an algorithm looking at swear words or what you do. It's just your content on your channel, your channel yourself. Yeah, it got a TV show, but did it have big actors in it like Matthew McConaughey and Idris Elba? Okay, but once again, does Divergent have actors in it in the TV show that are going to be big like Matthew McConaughey and Idris Elba? Because I hate to tell you, Shailene Woodley isn't as big as Matthew McConaughey and Idris Elba. So, you're kind of ignoring that, too. I mean, yeah, The Mortal Instruments got a TV show. Name me a big star in that show that's as big as an Oscar-winning actor, Matthew McConaughey, who's in blockbusters and was on True Detective, and Idris Elba, who's in Luther and the Thor movies. I would love to be proven wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure the Divergent TV series doesn't have anyone that big. And they only did the Divergent TV series because they decided not to make the next film because the third film bombed so bad that they realized it was more financially feasible to make a television series instead of doing another movie, because the last movie did awful. They lost a shitload of money, so there was no reason to continue. The Mortal Instruments, I mean, yeah, they say Elba's coming back, but I don't think that's happening. That's the thing. When you read that stuff, people are like, oh, but it says this. That doesn't mean shit, guys. That was all contract signed. Now the movie's bombing. It's getting bad reviews. Elba's a smart guy. He's not just going to sign up to some TV series unless they offer him a shitload of money or they tell him, hey, we're going to fix this. And they're going to want McConaughey back because people who saw the movie. You're the only one who's suggesting it will. I'm just saying we'll maybe get a show. Well, I mean, I'm not the only one who's saying it will. I'm saying that I'm saying very clearly that it's unlikely that Idris Elba or Matthew McConaughey would come back for a TV show. I'm not saying that they won't make a TV show. It's definitely not impossible that they'll do a Dark Tower TV show. That makes sense. They should have done a Dark Tower TV show in the first place. Making a movie was a dumb idea. I just don't see them signing Elba and McConaughey. Yeah, that's the thing. There's no way Idris Elba's coming back to that. That's anyone who believes that is just wishful thinking that Idris Elba's going to sign up. It's just not happening. I don't know why anyone would. In fact, and honestly, it would benefit them to cast TV actors who aren't going to cost as much. They'd have to pay Elba a lot of money. He's not some no-name, and McConaughey, they'd have to pay a lot of money. He wasn't getting paid shit on True Detective, okay? They spent quite a bit of money making that show. And it was only one season, a miniseries. If you sign up for a Dark Tower show, you're going to have to work a while. And I don't know if Idris Elba's going to go sign a contract to work on some show from some movie that he's getting, like, the worst reviews of his career, movie-wise on. Like, I think he's probably going to go try to do something else. Because, like I said, he's a smart guy. Why would he star in this franchise? I mean, he's just going to be like, well, it didn't work. You know, and from the rumors on the set, how this movie was going in the production, there was no way that they didn't know things were going downhill. There's no way that Elba and McConaughey didn't catch on during filming that the movie was falling apart. You know, they're not idiots. They would know if, like, okay, this probably isn't going to do that well. And the test screenings were bad for months. Oh no, Elba does. I just don't. Once again, I just don't see. Like I said, if they offer him the money, I can see it. If they're willing to pay Idris Elba the money to come on and do the show, then I can see it happening. But I just don't see it. I just don't see them doing it. I mean, it's possible, but Matthew McConaughey is definitely not happening. There's no fucking way Matthew McConaughey signing on to the TV show. I don't even know why they cast him hoping for that to happen. Did they seriously think they were going to get Matthew McConaughey to be on, like, a long-form television series and a series of movies? What kind of plan was this? Like, either start with the damn TV show. They spent $60 million on the movie. That was what the first season of Game of Thrones cost. Couldn't you make the first season of Game of Thrones for $60 million? Dark Tower? Like, it's TV. $60 million would look a lot better on television than it does in a movie. They could have made like a 6-7 episode first season, spent $60 million, which would have been quite a bit of money per episode. They could have kept Elba and you know, I don't know why they didn't do that. I mean, it makes no sense to me. It makes no sense to start it off as a movie franchise and then hope it does well as a movie franchise, and then you can turn it into a TV franchise. That's so stupid. That can work sometimes, like Friday Night Lights, but that was like kind of a reboot. They're hoping that everyone who saw the movie will watch a sequel television series. That's so strange. It just makes me go, why not start as a television series? That way people just start watching the TV show. Dark Tower, I don't know how much they spent on the marketing, man. So that's the question. So I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming it'll make a profit at probably $150 million worldwide. Wouldn't shock me. The budget being $60 million, let's say they spent $30 million on marketing or more, and they had $6 million in reshoot. So let's just be let's be conservative. Let's say $130 million even, which I think is probably not true, but I don't know, 100 something worldwide, 120, 130 maybe, which, you know, it might make, I don't know. I really don't, you don't really know this stuff till the end of the year because you don't know how the profits are split up. I don't think Sony put a lot of their own money up. Another studio put the money up for this movie. Sony only put on some of the money for the budget and for some of the reshoots, so Sony doesn't have a lot tied up in the film. So I don't think Sony's losing anything on this, but they have no reason to work on a sequel. Because the sequel, I mean, if your first film opens to 19 million, the second film's going to open to what, 15? And you know, they're going to have to spend more money. And how they ended this film, it's really confusing on what they're going to do with the sequel. I mean, it's so confusing to me how they handled this franchise. I'm just sitting here thinking, like, why did you do it that way? Because in my head, I'm thinking about a TV show on like HBO or something with Idris Elba and McConaughey, and I'm like, you know, that could have worked really. What the hell? Like, it's like, why the fuck did you make a 95-minute movie? I mean, I don't know if it'll make a profit. I really can't tell you. I don't think Sony's losing any money on it, but I don't think it's gonna. I honestly, if I was to bet money on it, I think the TV series is either gonna get canceled. You're gonna get an announcement here soon that it's gonna get canceled, or it's gonna come out that Idris Elba left and they're recasting the main roles and they're doing something different with it. Honestly, that's what I would do. I would just reboot it. I'd just start from the beginning, start over, go back to the first book, do it right, recast it, start over, don't associate it with the movie, and they'd probably be better off doing that, honestly, than trying to do a follow-up to this movie. They'd be better off just saying, fuck it, this TV series has nothing to do with the movie. And people really wouldn't care. So, I don't know, but I'm not a betting man, but if I was, I would say some news is going to come out about that TV show soon with either Elba leaving or something. I mean, God, if Idris Elba stays on that's going to be crazy. Even if he has a contract, there's ways to get out of that stuff. I think Sony are funded by some foreign governments who are more interested in destroying Western cultural icons. Oh, that's a pretty deep point. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. They're trying to destroy Spider-Man and stuff like that. I don't know. I mean, I know people get mad. I harp on this movie a lot and I shit on it so much, but that's just because it had so much potential to be a great flick or a great TV series, and they made every wrong decision with it. They got a director who was in over his head. They didn't spend enough money on it for what they were trying to do. They didn't even approach doing it right as an adaptation or a sequel. They just did everything wrong. Too much CGI. They tried to make it a film for everyone. They forgot that Dark Tower's weird and unique, and it's not a story just for about anyone. And it's like Game of Thrones wasn't a story for anyone either, and look how popular that got. So that definitely pisses me off. So I'm a little, you know, people just want to call me a book purist, but it's like, it's not just being a book purist. I like movies, and I like good movies and films that are well made and well thought out. There was so much potential for a Dark Tower film that it ticks you off when you see it, and it's not the movie that even an okay movie would have been. There's even an okay movie out of there. They didn't have to make a direct adaptation of The Dark Tower or something that was just like the books. They just had to make a good movie. They didn't even do that. They couldn't even make an entertaining, crowd-pleasing film apart from the books. So, you know, I mean, that's bullshit. I mean, do you have a Stephen King... I don't think the Stephen King cinematic universe would happen. I think it should happen. I think this is what they should have done. Here's where I think they screwed up. Stephen King started the cinematic universe, basically. With The Dark Tower in his books, he was doing the Marvel thing before it was really popular. I mean, it's what made Stephen King so cool, is you could connect stuff from Eyes of the Dragon and The Stand, and all that stuff. Here's the thing. Let's think about this. Imagine if it was acknowledged that film, if one studio was making all these films, or they all made a deal together, because this makes no sense to me. If they're going to cast Matthew McConaughey as Randall Flagg, and, you know, you could have cast someone else. I heard somebody say Walter Goggins, which I think is a great choice. He should be playing him in Eyes of the Dragon, in The Stand, and in the Dark Tower movies. And the Dark Tower movie should be the Avengers flicks. The Dark Tower films are the films that come out in between. The Dark Tower flicks come out in between the Stephen King flicks. Like, you have an It movie. And the It flick just has stuff that hints at things in Dark Tower, but, you know, it's still its own movie. And then you go see a Dark Tower film, and you go, hey, some of that stuff was in It. Okay. And then you go see The Stand, and you're like, hey, Randall Flagg's in this. Oh, he's the Man in Black. And then you go see Eyes of the Dragon, you go, oh, hey, he's in this too. And then you go see the next Dark Tower film. And they're kind of like, you know, each one's the Avengers. It's the big event movie that makes the big money. And then every other film is its own standalone movie. You know, you have your It film, you have your Pet Sematary film, and each one's a new adaptation of Stephen King. So then you have all of these Stephen King films coming out that could be really good films. I don't think it would be hard to make good films out of It or Pet Sematary right now and that stuff, or even Christine, a new Christine movie. And then you all just have them slightly tie into the Dark Tower films. Not in a big way, but enough to get people to know, going, oh, this is all kind of connected. And then you have an actor playing Flagg throughout all of these different stories, so then people start to get it, and then they go see the Stephen King cinematic universe. I mean, it just makes total sense to me. You would have all of the TV shows, and then they could do TV shows like Marvel does with Daredevil and Jessica Jones that tie into the cinematic universe. They could do the TV shows of Stephen King books and say, like how they do The Mist right now. The Mist could have been a TV show that took place in this cinematic universe with Dark Tower. And all of these TV shows could have been extensions of it. So it all felt connected. As of right now, they keep trying to make these Stephen King movies and TV shows, and they're not connected, and they all have a lot of similar things about them, and they try to be like, this is the great Stephen King book, this is the great Stephen King book. And I think they would all be much more successful, because it wouldn't feel like a gimmick with the cinematic universe. Like when other studios just try to force one, like Sony was trying to make their own cinematic universe after Marvel. It wouldn't be forced, because Stephen King did that in his books. His books connected. So all you have to do is take that stuff from the books and do it with his films and TV shows, and it just makes so much sense. It's like you can just print the money, because then you would build a brand around King, like he used to have a brand name, and people would just watch the movies and TV shows because of his brand. That's why those miniseries were so big back then. It's because Stephen King's name was so huge. You could have brought King's name back, but you know, I think a lot of people could have played Flagg really well. I heard someone say Willem Dafoe, which is almost too perfect. It's kind of like, yeah, that's almost like too obvious. I don't want to go that. It's like, yeah, of course Willem Dafoe. Like, that's just the guy you call up if you need someone to play that. I don't know. I think the issue is people who really love the books and they love Dark Tower, they want there to be something better, and they want to keep hope alive that something's going to come out of this. But I don't know. I think the best we can hope for is a television series that starts over or just ignores the movie and maybe get Idris Elba. But I can't see us getting much more than that. It sucks. I really think it could have been a great TV show. I really think they could have had the next Game of Thrones on their hands. I think they would have had a hit show, because, you know, it's as fucked up as Game of Thrones, and it's got that long, intricate plotting. And it's about the relationships between Roland and his companions, and the movie didn't really focus on that, and the TV show could have done such a good job making you really get to know these people and feel when they die and stuff like that. And the movie just didn't. The movie went for that Spielberg boy guy relationship. I'm going on too much of a tangent, though, and ignoring the box office. That's not what you guys are watching. Okay, The Nut Job 2. I don't know why this was made. $8 million opening weekend in 4,000 theaters. That is fucking awful. That has to be the lowest opening weekend for a 4,000 theater release. Holy shit. 4,000 theaters. 8 million. Oh my god. Holy shit. This is something you release straight to video. I mean, there's no reason to release this movie and put it, I mean, they probably spent more money getting this film distributed and getting it out there than they made in this opening weekend. That is pathetic. Don't get me wrong, if this was only in like 1,000 theaters, it would be a lot better, but that's a wide-ass release. Holy shit. That's one of the worst opening weekends I've ever seen. Bar none. Holy crap. I mean, not much to say about that. That is a shit opening weekend. My god. Even if it cost that less, that's still a waste of money to release a film in 4,000 theaters. Like, this was just a waste of time. Like, that's a wide... They could have released it in 2,000 theaters and had the same opening weekend. I mean, holy crap. What were they thinking? I mean, my god. I don't know why The Nut Job 2 was even made. I don't know why it wasn't a straight-to-DVD movie. What's my favorite Stephen King book? Yeah, I'm not saying it's a bad movie. I just don't know why they released it. That just didn't seem like... Wouldn't that be better off like as a home video release? I mean, really. I mean, there's no really reason to release that in theaters. It's not really... I mean, they didn't spend that much money on it. They're going to make their money back on home video. Why even waste the money on marketing and shit like that? My favorite Stephen King book, that's a good question, because probably Pet Sematary. I think that's his most focused and structured book. I have a lot of problems with Stephen King because I think he's indulgent and overlong during the cocaine era. And it really suffers from that. It's a book that I think if it was 450 pages to 500 pages, it would be Ray Bradbury level. Instead, I think it's one of King's most flawed books at 1,000 pages because it's such a mess. It's such a mess. It's all over the place. You could tell he was just in I mean, it is, but you gotta understand, dude, that's a 4,000 theater release. That's really bad for the release. Like, that means that's 8 million over 4,000. That means it's in most theaters across the country, and it brought that in. That's pretty bad. I mean, Girls Trip made about the same amount of money in 2,300 theaters this weekend. That's a lot of it. The studio spent a lot of money getting the films distributed and releasing them in a lot of theaters. I just don't know why they went so wide with it. I get them making a low-budget movie like that, but why the fuck did they put it in 4,000 theaters? It just seems stupid. They could have saved money by putting it in like 2,500. I'll talk about American Beauty maybe a little bit later. I mean, I don't know. It just seems weird. I don't even get why they released it right now in the crowded summer. Like, of course it was going to get beat by Annabelle and Dunkirk and all that. Like, why didn't they release this when it would have had more of its own weekend? Like, this film probably could have opened a lot better on a different weekend, but they kind of just dropped it in the middle of summer and, like, at the end of summer, like, hey, hopefully it'll make money. We're just going to shit this out and hope it makes some profit. Yeah, no, King's books... Yeah, I'm sure it's a deal split up between separate companies. But yeah, My favorite King book's probably Pet Sematary because it's like 370 pages. I'm a big fan of The Long Walk, although he's not King under that. The Dead Zone's pretty good. Yeah, I would have thought like 4 million opening weekend. What is the most overrated movie of all time in your opinion? Gladiator. I've said that in my Alien reviews. And people get mad at me about that, and you know, that's off the top of my head, that's the most overrated movie I can think of is Gladiator. Unless I'm forgetting something else. I mean, there's a lot of overrated films. The Hangover's a very overrated film. It's considered a modern classic, and it's kind of mediocre. I like The Shining book too, dude. Shining's a really good book. I like a lot of the Dark Tower books. I like most Stephen King books. He just, you know, the guy just loves to write fucking descriptions and fucking... He loves to give you all the backstory, and which I don't mind, but Jesus Christ. It's like, sometimes it's like, dude, I don't need to know the history of this house, man. Like, can we just continue with the story? I mean, if you're telling me, yeah, if you're just asking me, yeah, Crash. Here's the thing, though. A lot of people hate Crash. Like, Crash won Best Picture, but a lot of people were pissed off when that movie won Best Picture and beat Brokeback Mountain. And that film, over the test of time, doesn't seem to be loved. Gladiator's considered to be a masterpiece and one of Ridley Scott's best films and one of the greatest films of all time. And it was a huge hit, and it's blasphemy to hate on that film. And I think Gladiator is just, like, indulgent crap and a mess and sentimental as fuck. People always told me that that film's like such a masterpiece in editing and scope, and I watched it. I'm like, dude, this is Braveheart. This is exactly what Mel Gibson did with Braveheart. It's revisionist history, some bullshit hero tale. It's all about emotional manipulation. It's, you know, I mean, I don't mind that. It's got cool action scenes like Braveheart, but like Maximus's character's fucking ridiculous. The whole movie's so ridiculous. It's so overblown. It's so over the top visually. It's so it's oh god damn, and the story's a mess. The way that his wife and kid die is so poorly done, and then the way that the plot reveals things. I've just never understood the love for Gladiator. I'm with Roger Ebert on that film. He gave that film a really bad review, and I agree with that review. It's like, yeah, the film's a mess. It really makes no sense when you watch Gladiator. It's put together pretty freaking horribly. I've often wanted to do a video on that movie about how, yeah, once again, the Stanza book, I think, could have been shorter. You know, I think the Stand's a great book, but once again, 600 pages. Because I can't give it to King. He's just not the best at 1,000-page books because his stories aren't dense enough to benefit them. He just kind of overwrites the books for his sake. And, you know, because, I mean, it was that era when he was on coke for a lot of those books. He said he didn't even remember writing Cujo. But I think King's at his best when his stories are like 300 to 500 pages. And it's not like I don't like long books. I like long books like Gravity's Rainbow and Infinite Jest. But I just don't think King's stories really benefit from the longer scope. Oh, Bridesmaids is overrated. You're right, dude. That movie fucking sucks. Holy shit. I went to go see Bridesmaids in the theater, and I was like, how the fuck does anyone like this? The main character is so annoying. She's so unlikable. And there's scenes in that movie that are like 10-minute pauses hoping you're going to laugh at these really cringe, bad jokes. That scene where she's on the airplane like high or drunk that goes on for 10 minutes. It's so long. Then there's a scene where they keep going back and forth, taking this microphone, and it goes on for 5 minutes. I mean, that's every joke in Bridesmaids. It's like, hey, here's a joke. Let's drag it out for 10 minutes until it's not fucking funny anymore. I mean, holy crap. I've never seen a film that was like so... It's 2 hours and 8 minutes long, and it has enough material to hold together about an hour's worth of movie. And somehow the director, Paul Feig and Kristen Wiig, drag that crap out to 2 hours. Yeah, I don't know. It depends on what... Like, see, one of my favorite Stephen King books is Eyes of the Dragon, and that book's, what, like 300 pages? And I think that book's better than a lot of his books that are 1,000. I think that book's a perfect book. I don't think there's a flaw, an ounce of fat on it. I think it's a great fantasy novel. I love how classic it is. It's got classic structure. The illustrations are really good. And every time I read that book, it's like, yeah, this is magical. This is as good as Harry Potter or anything like that's great. And I think he can do that. And I just think, I don't know, there was a period where King, he got a little too obsessed with page count. And kind of forgot that not every book needs to be 1,000 pages. Okay, let's get back to the box office, because I'm going on way too many tangents. I like talking the movies here. Dunkirk, $100 million budget after a tax rebate. 153 mil domestic, 363 mil worldwide. I'm going to assume Dunkirk's broke even. I don't know if it's made a lot of profit yet, because I'm sure they spent $50 million on marketing. I think I read that. And the original budget was $150 million, so they said they got a $50 million rebate from shooting, so I don't know. I was guessing this film cost $120 million, so I don't really know what the real budget is or what the marketing budget is on this, but let's just assume it's $150 million. Let's just say that. So I'm guessing it's about broke even. I'd say $400 million worldwide. It's probably around there where it's done it. So if this makes $500 million worldwide or more, it's going to be a success. And it's pretty impressive. It's going to make over 170 mil domestic, how it's pacing right now, because it had another good weekend. It dropped 33%. So, you know, it's doing about Interstellar business domestically. The foreign box office isn't nearly as big as Interstellar, but, you know, much smaller scale film and type of film for what it is. You know, like Interstellar made 487 mil at the foreign box office. So that was kind of crazy. But still, if this makes 500 million worldwide or more, it's going to be a big success and make some profit. Considering it's a war film, an original film, it's something that Nolan hasn't done before. It came out in the summer. You know, there's really nothing. I mean, you know, a lot of people thought this film, there was a lot of box office predictions that thought this film was going to break out from like 55 million opening weekend to 200 mil domestic. I read a lot of predictions on that. It's not doing that, but it's still going to maybe make 175 million domestic, which is great. That's one of the highest grossing war films in years. You know, like American Sniper did really well, but they typically don't do that kind of box office. And this isn't based off a best-selling book. You know, if this can end up making 300 mil at the foreign box office and you know, 107, you know, if it makes about 500 million worldwide, I was thinking it could make 600 million worldwide, but I don't know now. It seems like I wouldn't bet on that, but still 500 million worldwide on a $100 million film is not bad. And it's outperforming War for the Planet of the Apes, which cost more and, you know, is the third film in a trilogy. So it's kind of hard to not call Dunkirk a total success for what it is. You know, there's context. Will Harry Styles get back end? I doubt it. I doubt he even got that much of a paycheck. It's based off a best-selling war. I'm sure Harry Styles got, like, commission. He probably got, like, the lowest pay you could probably get. My most anticipated film of the year. Blade Runner 2049, I guess, right now. That I can think off the top of my head. There's a Paul Thomas Anderson film coming out at the end of the year. I'm pretty excited about that because I like PTA. Okay, let's get to the number one of the weekend, which was going to be obvious. Annabelle Creation. Of course this was going to be huge. You were crazy if you thought this wasn't going to open well. The director's last film, Lights Out, had a 21 million opening weekend. And unlike a lot of horror films which drop at the box office, it actually held okay. And on a $4.9 million budget, the film made 150 million worldwide. Needless to say, it made a lot of money. Horror films are still about as profitable as it gets. Look at this film, $15 million budget. This is a sequel to a film that I don't remember what the last one cost. Let's look that up. The last Annabelle cost $6 million. Okay, so about double the budget. Opening weekend was 37 million, 84 mil domestic, 256 million worldwide. This is part of the Conjuring franchise, which both of those films made over 300 million worldwide. But okay, so for the budget, this is huge box office. They're not spending shit on these movies. I mean, they put nothing into this. Even if they spent 20 million on marketing, they made a shitload of money. The foreign box office is just too fucking big on these flicks. I mean, James Wan's basically just printing money with these films. Look at this. Insidious Chapter 3. 112 million worldwide on a $10 million budget. You know, the Conjuring films, 300 million. And the second film only cost, I think it cost $40 million and it made 320 million. And the first one cost less than that. It cost 20. So here we are with Annabelle Creation, which is actually getting much better reviews than the first film. The first film got terrible reviews. $15 million budget, about the same opening weekend as the last film. Went from 37 to 35. That's not a bad drop. This film has like 70% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's already made 71 million. They've probably already made their money back. That's how crazy it is. They probably have already broke even, and they're definitely going to break even next weekend. So it's hard to say this isn't going to make 200 million worldwide. I think it's almost a lock to make over 200 million worldwide. I don't know how well it'll hold up domestically. That is yet to be seen. But I'm sure it'll perform about the same as the first film, if not better. So we're looking at a film that's going to make a shitload of profit and goes along with films such as Get Out or Split that were horror films this year that were low budget that made huge profits. And it shows that horror is the only genre where producers budget well. For some reason, sci-fi films, they can't seem to make one rarely unless it costs 150 million. They can't make superhero films unless they cost 150 million. They can't even make animated films like Cars 3 without it costing 180 million. And Cars 3 box office, still very disappointing. Not even 300 million worldwide yet on a 180 mil budget and marketing. This is pretty fucking pathetic for Pixar. But nobody wanted Cars 3, so it's expected. That domestic total is shit. Transformers is right on the cusp of 600 million, but that's still really bad numbers for a Transformers film, and the fact it cost 217 million. It's only bad through context because the last two films made $1 billion. They actually made $1.1 billion. So you kind of have to look at that and go, okay, these last two films were big, big hits. And this film's not even coming close to that box office. So Michael Bay's Transformers era is finally fucking over. Thank God. But yeah, I don't get it. They don't seem to know how to budget films for any genre. I mean, even Dunkirk's a $100 million war film, which I get. And David Fincher makes these thrillers for like 90 mil. But for some reason, they can make a horror film always for like less than 20 million and then always make their money back opening weekend. I don't know why they don't make more, like, I don't know why you can't make an action film for this kind of budget, or why you can't make a thriller, or why you can't make more comedies for 15, 20 million. Why are all these comedies so expensive? I mean, fuck, even Girls Trip costs more than this damn movie, but so many of the comedies that come out today cost like $80 million, and they look like shit. It's baffling. Whoever came up with the idea of making it all about a Thorian legend needs to go into rehab. Oh, yeah. Yeah, the new one that it was about King Arthur and stuff. Yeah. Although I gotta say, seeing Michael Bay's King Arthur was kind of badass. Seeing explosions and all that was like, holy crap. Will Fox realize they were the problem with the Apes franchise and give it another shot? This time not marketing it to look exactly. I think they did fuck up with the marketing. I agree, it was the marketing. The film looked way too similar to the last film, and they didn't build enough outside. They didn't get it out there with other audiences. They just they really only target it towards the people who saw the first two movies, and that was about the same box office. What Rise did was Rise built an audience that went to Dawn, and Dawn made more money. So on paper, the third movie should have opened better than the second film. It should have opened to 90 million. The only reason this didn't happen is because they waited a long time to make a sequel, and then by the time they made it, they didn't market it well. When I saw the trailers, I kept thinking, man, that looks just like Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. It looks like the same fucking movie. And it's not the same movie, but they don't explain to you what's different. They just kind of show you like, hey, you know, you love Caesar, you want to go see it. You know, don't blame Matt Reeves or anyone involved with it. It was just a bad mistake. Cars 3 at least looked like an actual sequel to Cars. Cars 2... No, Cars 2 is really bad. Transformers 5, yeah, it's doing okay. I mean, I don't know how much profit they made off that, dude. You got to look at this. They made, you know, they don't make most of their money off the foreign box office, and they don't get all of the profit from China. China keeps a huge percentage of the box office total. Most of this is from China, man. You got to understand, like, the last Transformers movie made $350 million in China. This is Asian markets and stuff like that. This domestic total's terrible. I mean, they make the majority of their ticket sales off domestic, like 55%, even 60% or higher. And this film cost $217 million. I mean, if they spent a typical marketing budget worldwide, we're looking at a film that's got over $250 million in it, and it's not making $600 million worldwide. And most of the money, the majority of it is coming from the foreign box office. And I don't know how much of a cut the studio's getting from that. They may not be getting a huge portion of the China or Japanese profits. I'm not sure. I mean, this isn't good box office for a Transformers film. You don't go from two films that made $1.1 billion. Look at that. That's $860 million just at the foreign box office. $210 million budget. This film made $250 million profit for the studio, and it cost less and made this kind of money. And Michael Bay gets a huge back end on the Transformers films. He makes a lot of money from these, and so do all the actors who sign up to them. The studio doesn't get direct profits, like just because the movie's a hit. And even this movie, Shia made a lot from this. Michael Bay made a lot. I think Michael Bay made like $80 million from this movie. And it even had a budget under $200 million. And now we're looking at a film that didn't even gross $130 million domestic and not even $600 million worldwide. I'm not sure if they made much profit off this. I could see it, but it's tough to see how. The math doesn't make sense to me how they made any money off that movie yet. Because they just, well, the movie is a Chinese co-production. They get 50% ticket money. It's not like it's, oh, so they made a deal with China. Okay. Okay. I was about to say, because most of the time they don't get, you only get about 25% of the revenue from China. Oh, so they made a deal with the Chinese company like Tom Cruise did with Mission Impossible, where he got someone to fund the movie to give him like $100 million. So they got money up from China, and they marketed the film for China, so when the profits come in, they get a bigger percentage from that profits because they knew the domestic profits weren't going to be good. That makes sense. Even if they get 50% of the Chinese money, though, that's not that great. Bay was going to leave Transformers anyway, but Transformers 5 underperforming did cause the Transformers writing room to be disbanded. Well, thank God, because that writing room sucks. I don't even know if they claim they're writing screenplays, but it doesn't make sense when you go see those films, and they're so thoughtless. I think Blumhouse is going to be looked at more as a Roger Corman thing, dude. I think you're thinking about it wrong. I think you need to think more Roger Corman and not Hammer. You need to go, oh, Blumhouse was the studio that discovered all these indie directors and gave them low budgets and let them make these films that made them a name, and then they went on to become bigger directors. That's what Blumhouse is. I mean, Scott Derrickson started there, dude, and then Scott Derrickson went on to do Doctor Strange at Marvel. A lot of these guys end up going, or they bring directors back like M. Night Shyamalan, which is very Roger Corman. So I don't think it's like Hammer, because Hammer kind of had like its own in-team group, and they had a lot of the same actors work on the films, and they had their kind of a production company that was consistent. Yeah, I think the Bumblebee movie will make money. I actually think making a Bumblebee movie is a better idea than making Transformers 5. I actually think making a Bumblebee movie made a lot more sense. I think they should have just done that. So I think Transformers 4 must have had a Chinese co-production then, because there's that whole segment of that film that's in Hong Kong, remember? That's just blatantly for Chinese audiences, where they just go to Hong Kong, like they just go to China out of nowhere for like 20 minutes of the movie. Yeah, like The Wall. Yeah, see, people don't get this. They're making films for China now because they know the domestic box office is getting lower, except for the rare films like a Marvel or Star Wars film. It's the foreign box office that they're caring about. The Chinese market's just getting bigger, and films like Warcraft can do well over there and bomb here because the Chinese are fucking weird. They like different movies. So they're trying to... I mean, honestly, War for the Planet of the Apes, they probably could have benefited making a film in China. They probably could have benefited having Caesar speak Chinese or something. Yeah, no, movies include a lot of Asian characters now, if you notice. That, like, you know how to sew where there's Asian characters, and they go... Mission Impossible is a great example, the recent one for Tom Cruise. He couldn't get the budget for it, which I don't get why, after the fourth one did so well. They wouldn't give him money for the fifth Mission Impossible. And then the movie ended up making $700 million worldwide. I think Pacific Rim 2 is happening because of China. I think that's the only reason that film's getting made. Because if you guys don't remember, Pacific Rim didn't do well domestically. It only made about $100 million and cost about $200 million to make. But it did really well in Asia, and now the Chinese market is huge compared to back then. Back then it wasn't nearly as big, so, you know, now you can get why they would make Pacific Rim 2, because it's like, shit, that movie could make $400 million in China alone. The Fast and the Furious film, didn't the last one just make like $400 million there or some shit? Frozen in Japan. Frozen made like $300 million in Japan. One of the highest grossing films in all of Japan is Frozen. It held the #1 weekend at the box office for like months. It made so much profit in Japan. So you know, you can't ignore those markets now. Films can really break out now. They did leave John Boyega off the marketing in Star Wars because he was black. It's true. They actually don't put blacks in the front of the marketing in Chinese releases because Chinese people, coincidentally, are kind of racist, and they don't like seeing black people in leads in movies. It's just true. It's in Japan, too. And they try to keep blacks out of the marketing because they think it'll hurt the film. Which is weird. It's really weird. But, you know, it's how Asia is. They like white movie stars. Tom Cruise is like the biggest American movie star in Asia. They love Tom Cruise because he stars in action movies with a lot of stunts. He's kind of an American Jackie Chan, We just don't like to give him that associate, but that's what he is. He's kind of like, he does stunt work and physical stuff that's like Asian cinema. If you watch the Mission Impossible films, it feels like an Asian film. I mean, it really does. You totally see the transfer. You're like, oh. And then you think about Top Gun, and you're like, of course Asians love Top Gun. Of course the Japanese love Top Gun. So Tom Cruise is very much, he's the kind of actor that does really well. Like, Edge of Tomorrow did much better in Asia than it did over here. Where, yeah, John Boyega, Will Smith even, a lot of those guys don't do well. If you look at the foreign box office for black-centered films and films with black leads, they don't do as well unless they have a whole... Like, Star Wars wasn't John Boyega. Will Smith and Denzel are two of the only black actors I can think of that are able to branch out away from that. Even Get Out made most of its money domestically. It did well at the foreign box office, but it made... I mean, it made like 180 mil just here alone. I mean, it killed here domestically. Because black audiences see more black films with black leads in America than any country in the world. It's not even close. Well, I think Ghost in the Shell didn't do well because they didn't like Scarlett Johansson in that role. I think they would have been better off going with an Asian actress. I think that was one of those times the whitewashing didn't pay off. So why did they cast Boyega in the Asian-centric Pacific Rim 2? I think they cast him for American audiences, and I think they're going to market the Asian actors in the foreign release and keep John Boyega off front and center. You know, trailers are different for, like, Japan and China than our trailers. So if you really think about that, they could advertise that film and show all the robots fighting and the Asian actors and not even show John Boyega. And then people go see it and be like, oh, this black guy's in it. But they don't even have to show him in the trailers. So I could definitely see that. They're just going to focus on the robots. Nobody went to go see the Transformers films because of who was in them. They went to go see Optimus and Bumblebee fight. I think they're going to focus all the marketing on the robots. I think John Boyega was simply cast because of Star Wars. And they're hoping that'll work out. They're hoping that'll work with American audiences. I don't think he was cast for the foreign market at all. I could be wrong, though, but I just don't see it. He's not really a foreign star, either. I mean, they could have cast another big-name actor. Oh, Rinko's a good idea. Yes. Yes. Yeah, I think... Well, here's the thing. Lucy did really well in Asian markets, so it's a tough call. Like, Scarlett Johansson was in Lucy, and that film had a lot of anime influence, and it did huge. So I get why they went with her in Ghost in the Shell. But we have to be kind of honest here. Ghost in the Shell kind of had crappy marketing. It didn't look that great. It just looked okay. It looked like every other sci-fi film from 20 years. And if you've seen the original anime, it didn't make you that excited to go see it either. So we kind of have to factor that in. Yeah, they might actually trim down Boyega's role. That's what's screwed up. They might trim out the black guy's role just because he's black for a Chinese release. Isn't that screwed up? And Black Lives Matter and the social justice warriors complain about how racist we are and what we do over here, and they don't realize how bad it is in other places. That they don't even like movies. Oh yeah, Rogue One was totally thought out for the Asian market. Donnie Yen is specifically in that film for that reason. Because they don't give him anything to do. They just put him in that movie because they're like, yeah, we need an Asian guy. I mean, they didn't cast the Ancient One as an Asian because of China. That's why. In Doctor Strange, people think it was a race. That's not why. Even the writer talked about this. It's because of the racism in China. So they went with a white woman. That was a big decision of the reason why they didn't go with an Asian Ancient One in Doctor Strange. People think it was because they didn't want to cast Asian in that role. That wasn't it at all. They were thinking about the Chinese market specifically. Marvel thinks about the Chinese market. Star Wars thinks about it. You have to. You have to. You're a moron if you don't. It's dominating. I mean, films in China like The Mermaid can make $400 million there. You know, that are Chinese films. So, I like Asian actors. I like Asian cinema. I think Asians should come into. Why would that factor into it? I don't know what you're talking about specifically. Oh, you mean the Tibetan thing? Yeah, China, it's the Tibetan thing, dude. Chinese hate Tibet. Like, they would have hated that. They would have protested the movie. They may have not even let them release it there. Yeah, it's the Tibet thing. They had to do that because if they would have actually cast someone, it would have been a big deal. The Chinese are really screwed up, man. They didn't like time. They banned time travel, and they didn't let Ghostbusters get released because it had ghosts in it. I don't know what to tell you. Chinese people are weird. It makes no sense to me either. Yes, that's basically what it was. I mean, I don't know what to say. Chinese people are just kind of weird, man. They make no sense. They hate each other. They hate things. They don't make any sense. Yeah, I mean, it has to do with history and their culture and where they live. Though they didn't even want to. They didn't even want to imply anything with the Tibetan monk or anything. They wanted to get as disassociated from that as possible. That was thought out with that movie. They wanted to get as far away from it as possible. They wanted nobody to even think about that. That's why I think they went with a white actress. They wanted to get you as far away from that as you could possibly imagine. It was ridiculous. Yeah, I mean they have to do they banned time travel for a couple years. Well, you weren't allowed to have time like a movie like Back to the Future wouldn't have been able to get released in China at one point. Or something like that. Like they didn't allow time travel movies and books and stuff. It was crazy. This was a real thing. And they allow ghosts if the ghost isn't a real ghost. It's like somebody but they don't allow ghosts that are actual ghosts. It's flux capacitors. Because then Americans might have complained about magical Asian trope. Yeah. We start getting the magical Asian in movies. I'm here to help you, sir. At least it's not like Short Round. We haven't been as bad as Short Round since the 80s. You think Asians have it bad now? Go back and watch Temple of Doom. You're very bad man, Dr. Jones. Very bad, Dr. Jones. It's like, dude, come on. Come on, Steven. It's good. Oh, so far, shit, this is the longest box office weekend breakdown so far. This one's been an hour and a half. Much longer than I anticipated. I thought this was only going to be like 45 minutes. But I like talking about China and all this stuff going on. Why a woman? I don't know why they cast the woman. I'm assuming they just went with Tilda Swinton because she kind of looks like a guy and kind of has this transgender quality about her, and I think they wanted the Ancient One to not really look like a man or a woman. So that's my best guess. If you really want to go with that, it's because Tilda Swinton, she doesn't scream hot woman sex appeal. I mean, that basically could have been her playing a guy in that movie, and it wouldn't have been any different. So, I think it was very intentional. They didn't want to have a race issue, and they didn't want to have it be. I think they were trying to cover all bases. It ended up working out. I mean, it really did. No one made that big of a deal about it, and the movie ended up being successful, so it worked out. And Tilda Swinton's a great actress. Well, we had a lot of tangents. Not that I'm complaining. Yeah, this was more tangents. We still covered most of the movies, though, guys. I just typically I don't usually look at chat for this reason. Like, I remember last week or the week before, you guys were giving me crap. Like, why do you look at the chat, talk to us? And I go, this is why. Because I don't focus on the video and looking at the movies, and I end up talking to you guys about Chinese box office and what Chinese people banning time travel. Because that's the conversation. Let's see where Pirates of the Caribbean's at real quick, though. 785 million. That ain't bad. Still, man, God, I've heard they have over 300 million in this movie. There's a lot of reports. So still this year, Beauty and the Beast and Fate of the Furious are still the kings. You can't deny that Beauty and the Beast money. Holy crud. 1.2 billion. 500 mil domestic. That is nuts. Swinton is the most overrated actress working at the moment. Isn't it illegal to make a movie now with no fish? In China? I don't know. They have a lot of weird rules. I've read this stuff before where they have these strange, the hardest part studios are having right now with this is they have to try to pass the Chinese censors. They don't know if the film will pass it or not, and they stress out about it because they want that Chinese box office. Studio heads are struggling trying to make films that will hit. See, it's a problem because they're trying to make a film for an American audience and American sensibilities. Then they're trying to make a Chinese film for Chinese audience and their sensibilities. And I think that's why a lot of films right now are total messes, because they're thinking about a global market now, and they're not just making films in their culture. You know, I mean, it's not like you can't make a film that has appeal to all sorts of different demographics like an Avatar, but you shouldn't go into it. Yeah, I did do this late. I'm sorry, guys. I was supposed to do this. I usually do this at 1 or 2. And I told you guys all yesterday I was going to do this at 4. And I ended up talking to my father today about World War II for like 3 hours. And we ended up having a really detailed conversation about World War II and strategy. And I got a little bit too caught up in that. I agree. Deadpool did show that. That's a great example. Deadpool's a great example of what you do when you target to an American audience and you make a low-budget film and you capitalize on franchise potential. Because Deadpool's just going to make Fox crap loads of money now every year, and it's making Marvel money because they get the merchandise. So everyone wins with Deadpool. Deadpool's been selling merchandise good even before the movie. Deadpool's merchandise has been doing well for years. So, yeah, I mean, it was only a matter of time. But I'm sorry that this was later than normal. I'm sorry I started at 7-something. Game of Thrones starts here in like 40 minutes, so I need to get ready for that here pretty soon and probably eat something. But I'm sorry this was late. I promise next Sunday I'll try to do it earlier. I know we normally do this early in the afternoon when the box office has been out for a few hours, because I like looking at it for the first time with you guys. All of you in the chat that have been talking to me and breaking this down for me and giving me some information, I appreciate it, because I don't know everything, man. You know, I need, you guys give me some information on stuff. I don't know everything about the marketing budgets. I'm just guessing on a lot of those things are from reports I've read, and we don't know a lot of the profits until the end of the year. Studio accounting, Hollywood accounting's really questionable. But with you guys helping me out with that, it helps me learn. So I'm always willing to get new information, and I don't want you guys to think that I think I know everything like that. I'm as interested in the box office as the rest of you, and I want the movies that I like to do well, and I want studios to do well, and I want original films to do well. Oh, I already talked to my father. Yeah, we got it. We got a little bit too, we got a little bit too much into it. But I wanna let you guys know. Yeah, if you have anything that I don't know about the box office or the movie thing, let me know, and I'll put it in the next video, because I only want to make this better. And I want to make this about a community of sharing our love for, being geeks about the dumb things like how much money a movie makes and we don't make any money off of it. I enjoy that, and I think we all enjoy it too, and I think it's fun. And it's fun to talk to you guys about it and learn things, and I'm still learning, and it's been great. So thank you to everyone who's watched this stream. I'm sorry if it went a little longer than normal. It may have been late, but you got more show than typical. Sorry if we went on too many tangents. I hope you guys who just watched this for the numbers, you can kind of skip around, I promise. You don't have to watch most of the beginning and the end. You could skip around and just get to me talking about the movies and the money they made. And I don't know. I just love doing this. This is my favorite thing to do all week. I look forward to it all week, doing this live stream. I mean, it gets me excited. So it was, and I forgot about it today. And I forgot to feed my damn bunnies, and I was like, oh no. So I had to feed my rabbits, and I had to come talk to you guys and give you guys the numbers. But this was awesome. So please, if you watch this video later, make sure to comment down in the comments and give me your opinion and tell me what you think about this. If you like the channel, if you like the tangents, if you like the conversation. And yeah, I'll be on Twitter. I'll be live tweeting about Game of Thrones if you guys want to follow me on there and see what I have to say. Because I think I make pretty funny comments about it. But thank you to everyone who watches this every Sunday. I'll see you guys next Sunday. And make sure to follow the money. That lets us know what's happening. And especially with this conversation, we really got into it today, how movies specifically are being made to target audiences, let's say, in China. And that is very important to the future of films. Films will change because of the markets. The market affects what gets made by Hollywood. This isn't going to affect independent cinema, but the movies that they're making to make money, they're going to get affected by this. So always follow the money. It is worth checking the box office. And it's not a waste of time. It's not just a dumb hobby. If you take movies seriously and you want the kind of films that you like to keep getting made, you got to support them. And you got to know what money that you got to know. You got to know how much they need to make. You need to tell people to go see it. if you really support like War for the Planet of the Apes, you need to try to get everyone that you know to go see it. You know, you got to try to help these movies out, because word of mouth is the only thing that can carry some of these films sometimes. And that's the only thing that keeps films alive a lot of the time, is word of mouth. It's a tough market today. Movies come out all year. Every film feels like a blockbuster anymore. People don't have the money to go forward to take their families to go see every film. So you got to be more selective now. And there's so many theaters now and so many screens. But you know, I think what people don't get about the box office is that Hollywood has always been about money. And you get that rare occasion where something really something artistically beautiful and meaningful comes out. But for the most part, it's about making money. So it's more important to follow the money than to follow reviews, or to follow. It's so stupid to follow things that are arbitrary. Money's not arbitrary to the studio. It may be arbitrary to you because you don't get any, but it's not arbitrary what a studio makes on a movie. They care about that more than anything. Let me guarantee you that. So that's why I think it's important, and that's why I want to do this live stream, because I think more people need to be educated on the box office and how it works, and how studios make money, and why they make the films they do. They go, why do they make these crappy Transformers films or superhero films? It's because they make money. It's that simple. And if people can see that more, then they can understand it better, and then they can support the films that they want to do better, and they don't just say, I'll wait for it to come out on DVD. You can't wait for it to come out on DVD sometimes. You got to help that movie out. And how much marketing matters and release dates. People just don't know about this stuff. The common person doesn't really know. Yeah, money does seem arbitrary to Sony. Good point. They seem to be just wiping their ass with $200 bills. So I'm probably not going to get monetization on this video because YouTube hates my account. It's pretty great. But thank you for watching, guys. I'll play some music out for you. And keep checking that box office. Keep loving movies. And just keep being the beautiful bastards that you are, because I couldn't do this without you. You guys are not only subscribers, you're friends. And don't forget that, because I'm not making any money off this, so I'm not doing this for money. I'm doing this simply because I enjoy doing it. And you're not going to get that from every YouTuber. Alright, see you guys.